Hey everyone out there, hello. Welcome to the Musical QuaranStream. I am Glenn.
I agree. We look a little different. We're far away.
Yes, we're very far away from the camera, but close enough that I can see Ginny is in the chat. Hi Ginny, nice to see you.
And you see a little bit different part of the apartment because we are painting. Sneak preview of the color right there.
Yes.
We've been moving around some boxes and it's been a week.
Yes.
So it's like I just want to sit where I'm comfortable. I don't want to have to switch things around.
So we pulled the computer this way so we could talk to you guys tonight. And hello Bristol, I see Bristol is in our chat too.
Yep, we got a couple of standing lamps right here. We got some overhead lamps. The only lamps that are in this room that aren't on are the ones behind us. Don't have light bulbs in them. That's the way quarantine moving kind of works sometimes.
Yes.
So, it's been a bit of a scary weekend.
Yes, it has.
I tried to get a second job and got exposed to COVID for like 8 hours on June 11th. And I had to go get my test, which I can tell everybody, if you're scared about the test, like, please do not be scared about the test. Literally, they got a big long swab, and actually, because I could open my mouth real wide, they're like, we can just swab your throat. And I was like, great, I've done that a million times. When I was little, I had strep infections, and so it was not a big deal at all. And then I was fully intending that they would, like, then stick the thing up my nose. They didn't. So if they get enough, I guess, good mucal, whatever, from the back of your throat, you're fine. The only sad thing is, so when you go in, you have to go in by yourself. You have to go in through the special entrance. And it was actually the teen wing of the hospital. So you'd see all these, like, things. And, of course, there's, like, a Charlotte's Web quote on the wall. I'm like, well, it's because he was her friend. And then when they come in, it's, like, 6 feet away. So they try to stay as far away from you as possible. You have to switch out your mask. It's really weird. And then to, like, add insult to injury, the poor person who had the biohazard bag where they're going to put my sample in, she stuck it in, she's like, the bag broke. So it's just like everything that could possibly go wrong. Like, you know, you get furloughed, you're like, fine, I'll get another job. You get another job, you follow PPE, then it's like, well, it didn't really matter because you spent over 3 minutes in under 3 feet of space next to somebody, so that's what gets you infected. But no, I've been cleared. I've been said that my test result came back negative, so cause for celebration. That's really, really great. However, it's not a real negative because the sad thing about the tests are, if you're positive, they know you're positive for sure. If you're negative, you're either negative for sure or the virus just hasn't manifested itself yet.
Yeah.
So they're basically saying, like, until June 26th, I have to stay home by myself with this guy, and we cannot go out. We can't even pick up groceries. Like, we have to pay extra to get groceries delivered. Like, we are not really allowed to leave our house except to get mail, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Just on the off chance that I'm an asymptomatic carrier and he's an asymptomatic carrier, or if in like the next 3 or 4 days I'm going to develop the virus. So to be on the safe side, we are staying away from everybody.
But at the moment, all signs are positive because not only have you not seen any of the symptoms, but all the numbers they took on you, all the readings they took on you during the
pulse,
test.
Good oxygen in my blood.
Yeah.
My temperature has been very, very low for the past 2 weeks. So, I mean, I think we have, you know, it's very scary because I'm debating right now, do I go back to work? Do I not go back to work? My job that I was furloughed from, I'm back at work, and I've been kind of doing, I would say, like a little bit of half days, unfortunately. There's a lot to catch up on, and then I'm also doing a lot of big self-improvement things I've been talking about. I've been going to therapy, which is trying to help me gain a little bit more self-confidence and go out into the world the way I want to go out into the world and do things. And so that's been really helpful, but it's been very exhausting. So it's been kind of just a rough couple of days. Like, Monday was my test, Tuesday was my appointment, and then today I sat in 2 meetings for most of the day. So we're trying to kind of get back into the swing of doing the job that I was furloughed from, But the second job that I took during the furlough, it's been real hard. Like
Yeah.
I can't decide, do I want to go back, because even though I had this horrible COVID exposure and all this other stuff, the PPE protected me and I was actually pretty safe, or do I want to be like, no. And I'm leaning a little bit more towards the second, and it's just because look, I'm not going to lie. We're going to be very honest with our audience. I think all of us could use some money.
Yeah.
Everybody in America could use some money, and if you say you can't, that's probably not true unless you're like one of two people. So for me, it's very, very tempting to say, like, the way that things would be solved is to just suck it up and go back into the fray and try to work both jobs. But I feel that at the end of the day, what I was looking to make back was a couple $1,000 and maybe a little bit extra to kind of like help us move into a place where we're like, we can buy vegetables and vitamins and go on a vacation, live the American dream. But it wasn't enough that I felt like if I were to actually go back and catch COVID, we would have hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills, and that second job really wouldn't make a big difference in the long run. So that's been really hard to kind of come to terms with, because I like to think I can do stuff, I can change the world, I can fix things, and the pandemic has made it pretty difficult in order to make what are fairly logical, fairly, I think, normal decisions, and then you really have to kind of think like, but at what cost?
Yeah. So yeah, it is. It's a difficult and a scary time, but that's part of why we started up this stream, was so that twice a week we could show up and see some of our friends and family pop up in the chat. Hi guys, and talk about musical theater and writing and art and all of the stuff that we love.
Yeah, one of the things mentioned in therapy this week was I said, I was like, I love singing, I love dancing, I love musical theater, and I think it's been really hard when you're really stressed out and you make money for the support of your family and everything. You make the most amount of money. I hope I'm not
well, no,
not divulging too much, but
it's completely fair. Yes.
But it's really hard to say, like, well, I'm going to spend some time doing something creative or something fun, because, like, I just don't have a lot of joy in it. Like, I just have a lot of stress, and I feel like I could be doing something more or better. So my recommendation, because I talked about, like, I love music, I love musical theater, I love singing, and I haven't really done much of that. Probably in the past 10 years, to be honest. Like, I mean, I've done things here and there, but not really kind of in earnest. Is they said set up like a musical corner. So like I, have a little wish list I keep on Amazon. So I'm gonna buy some guitar things to hang the guitars on the wall. I'm gonna set up my keyboard and then try to devote like a nice little musical space. So if I do feel stressed, I can go over there and do that. We also have an easel and some canvases, and again, like, we'll buy paint when the time is right. But trying to take just as much time as we do for going on walks and going to work and cooking food and all that stuff, and trying to devote things that made me happy and maybe getting into that habit.
Yeah.
It'll help, and that's really made me like kind of a little bit hopeful. Let's put it that way. Now I still haven't done it. Like, it's been 2 days and I still haven't set up the music corner like I said I was going to, but I have until next Tuesday. So
yeah, you're doing good, all things considered.
Yes. Yeah. And we got like a couple of big projects coming back on from work and stuff like that. So we've had a little bit of a time, and I'm sure everybody else has as well. So this is kind of in lieu of our what have we been watching? My test results.
Yes.
That's what we've been watching.
That's pretty much what we've been watching. Yes.
And debating and freaking out. So.
And just to make one point clear, when we streamed on Saturday. At that point, we weren't in this waiting on the test results stage.
We didn't know.
It was literally like within minutes of the end of our stream on Saturday that she got the call that said, "Oh, by the way, last shift
you could have COVID."
Yeah, last shift you got exposed to COVID for the entire shift.
Yay!
So this is literally the first time we've been streaming since that happened.
And I think I really wanted to talk about it, since I know this is going to go up on YouTube, and I know COVID stuff can't be monetized, but you know we don't have a ton of views anyway.
Yeah.
But I do think it's really important just to remind people, like, just because the state has opened back up, we're in Virginia, obviously. We've mentioned a couple times. We have this lovely shirt. It opened on June 10th, and I literally got informed that I was exposed on June 11th. Like, you know, the pandemic and the virus is still out there. It literally is like your sex ed teacher told you, if you went to a progressive school, you know, it only needs one time and you can get chlamydia. So it's one of those things where, you know, I was being safe. I had a mask. I washed my hands. Like, we were required to wash our hands every 30 minutes. So I think that helped keep a lot of us safe. But still, at the same time, like, you just don't know, and you don't want to be at that risk. And I'm someone who has 3 different, you know, vulnerabilities to this disease. You know, I'm overweight, I have asthma, I have hypertension, and so it's going to affect me fairly differently than somebody who didn't have those things. So I think that was kind of the scary realization is, you know, if this is going to go down, it's going to go down pretty quickly, and then what do we do from there? You know, because that would mean, you know, Glenn would get sick, or, you know, if Glenn didn't get sick and I'm in the hospital, you know, what do we do for my job? Like, I haven't worked either jobs for a year, so I don't even qualify for Family Leave Medical Act yet. It's just very, very stressful time for everybody, and hopefully that this is relatable to some of you out there. I know all of us are kind of struggling in our own ways, and we're all trying our best, but I just want to encourage everybody, please keep your mask on, please keep washing your hands. Just because it's okay to go out and the states are open, it doesn't mean anything has really changed as far as the disease. And I think knowing, for me, the 3-minute rule and the 3 feet rule were pretty big. You know, if you are closer than 3 feet or under to somebody for over 3 minutes, you will probably get the disease. That was something that I hadn't heard before, and I feel like, you know, kind of working in a clinical setting, I felt like I knew a lot. But I'm not an epidemiologist, and I still felt like I learned a lot from knowing why they isolate people, why they test people, why they don't test people, and try to figure it out from there, because we don't have the resources. Yeah. I've heard from some of my friends, they've got tested just because they asked for a test, but unfortunately from, you know, where we live and where I work, the doctors are prioritized for tests as they should be. If they're in the hospital every day, they should have that. But that was a big thing of, like, do I go in? Do I not go in? If I go in, am I at a higher risk for getting it by sitting in the COVID clinic? And it was very, very scary and harrowing. Like, I didn't mean to kind of wait for 2 days before I got a test, but at the same time, knowing that there still are limited resources out there and that they need to keep their staff safe so that they're still working and make sure that they're not infecting me if I wasn't infected. It's hard. It really is still hard out there, and I think we're going to be fighting this for a long time, unfortunately.
And there's a lot of, I see a lot of information out there, I guess I should say a lot of misinformation. Some things to just bear in mind. I know there are a lot of people questioning the efficacy of the mask. If you're following proper mask procedure, the mask can only help. Like, put the mask on, don't take it off until you absolutely have to, until you're done, you're not in an exposure area anymore. When you do take it off, handle it by the ear straps and don't reuse masks.
Yep, and I would also say we have a packet or 2 of the medical grade paper masks, which we got at Wegmans. Those work well. It's a tight weave cotton fabric, like a quilting fabric that's going to work. I have heard some people say, oh, it's really hard. Do not make a mask out of denim.
No,
you know,
no.
Don't make a mask out of fleece. You need to be really kind of careful, really what you're breathing in. I feel this is my opinion coming out. My mother worked for the federal government for a long time. There's a stronger federal response of, here are the appropriate masks, and, you know, here is some, you know, financial support. Here's all this stuff. I think we would have been in a much better position, because I feel like having people make masks on their own, while it's certainly really useful, a lot of information does get kind of spread haphazardly. Yeah. And, you know, I really love my friend, but I saw one of my friends who's a costume designer sell a denim mask. And I was like, no, you do not want a double layer denim mask and try to breathe through that. That's really hard. That's not the quilting, tight weave, cotton fabric that, you know, you're thinking of, you should be able to kind of breathe through like a bandana or something like that. And to be honest, if you can't, or if you don't want to, you shouldn't be out. Like, I mean, I think that was a big wake-up call for me is, you know, if I'm in the hospital, like, I'm not working, I'm not bringing in income, you know, I'm sure Glenn does not want to talk to my parents of why I'm dead. So, so we're trying to keep ourselves safe, and we just want to hope that if this information is helpful for you, great. You know, we really, really hope that you can kind of learn from our mistakes, and not everybody does have the luxury to go through that debate that I get to go through. Like, do I want to quit my second job?
Yeah.
And is having, like, you know, my one income enough for us? And it'll be tight. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how we're gonna get to like September. But luckily, like, my parents are really supportive, and I've talked to them about it, and I think that they kind of felt the same way. And we're just really hoping that we keep moving forward in a positive direction. So.
Yes. All right. So
on that note.
So now that we've brought the level of the room
way down.
Let's talk a little bit about musical theater, because as the people who have joined us before know, and as people who are joining us for the first time are about to know, we have been pitching our ideas for musicals.
Yes.
That's where we've been for the past, what, 2 months now? A little bit longer?
Really, ever since March.
Ever since March. Ever since the end of March.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a long time.
Yes. So,
really, I think after the first 2 weeks, we kind of were like, well, that's as many musicals as we've been in. We're not Broadway stars. We're not hired to do this on the reg.
And then after a couple more weeks of figuring our way through musicals we haven't seen, we were like, well, you know, we read a lot of Wikipedia entries about these musicals, and we kind of have an idea what's going on.
Yeah, so, I mean, I feel like this kind of started out of, like, my favorite thing in the whole wide world is musical theater. It's my automatic go-to whenever I'm listening to stuff on my phone or on Pandora or Spotify or whatever. It's what I spend the majority of my, you know, rare disposable income on. Like, I'd rather spend $11 on a cast album, and I did that when I knew I'd be stuck at home. I was like, all right, how much is Dear Evan Hansen? So I feel that that's what I gravitate towards, and that's what I find a lot of comfort in, which is why, you know, I kind of mentioned it's so sad that I'm like, oh, I don't want to sing. I just want to, like, take a nap and do work.
My favorite thing in the world, as anybody who knows me can tell you, is my favorite thing is talking about wouldn't it be awesome if a show existed like. And let's see, Jenny's new favorite is Company with Neil Patrick Harris. That's a great soundtrack. I love that one.
So good. Patti LuPone.
Yep.
Stephen Colbert. Really, yes, highly approve. I really like Company. I feel like you kind of have certain ages for different Sondheim shows. First, it's like, I feel like you start with, like, Into the Woods.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like you hit 35, you're like, Company. I'm still going to be like Folly. It's like the 80-year-old lady that's like, I used to be pretty and walk down staircases.
And then eventually you wind up with a little night music where you die in the last act. And so, okay. But anyway, we started down this road of, well, let's have, like, themed weeks. We're pitching musicals based on movies, musicals based on the music of a band, what they call jukebox musicals or popsicles, I've heard them called. I always like that
I really
term.
want pop. Somebody mail me a popsicle.
Yes.
I can't go out and get one. Send me one.
And our current one, we're entering into our second week of musicals based on podcasts.
Which is new. I mean, I don't know too many.
Yeah.
I can't think of one.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean they don't exist, but
I'm certain that there are podcasts that are musicals.
Yeah, that's the reverse of that.
I'm certain that there are some podcasts out there that for their live show have been like, well, let's throw in a song or two. But we're talking actual, like, Broadway musical based on a podcast. All right, and so far we've had Welcome to Night Vale, and we've had My Favorite Murder, And today we are doing
99% Invisible.
Yes.
This is the one I really, really like. I kind of get caught up on the most. It's normally 20 minutes or under, which is really nice digestible pieces. And I do it while I'm spinning blood in the lab or doing some pipetting or really some sort of data work, because it's not that it's not interesting, but it's kind of just interesting enough to kind of get you through a boring task. But it's not so interesting that you're like, what am I doing? I just stopped whatever I was doing for 20 minutes and listened to this. So it's a nice balance. I like Roman Mars's voice. And when I was thinking about this, I was just really always read the plaque, which is kind of their go-to saying. But I was thinking, okay, maybe a little bit how to succeed in business, maybe a little bit Urinetown, maybe a little bit what the Constitution means to me, and kind of there is this musical out there for, I think it's mostly in touring companies that go to elementary schools and stuff, and it's the way things work. And I kind of feel like it's a little bit like that, but I don't know. I was like, I've had some loosey-goosey pitches because I'm dealing with life. But what I was kind of thinking is the motto of the show, he has different, I guess, edicts or tenets or stuff about architecture and design. And that's really, what this is about. One is always read the plaque. So if you go somewhere and you see a statue, don't just be like, I wonder what that statue is, or Google it. You should read the plaque, what it is, because it kind of gives context, it gives some information, and sometimes it's really fun to go find the plaque, because sometimes it might be a statue on a building, you have to go look for it. So that's one of the things that he always talks about. And then the other thing that Roman Mars, the host, always talks about is he loves flag design, flag and stamp design. One of the big things that he had one time is redesigning the 50 states flags, or talking about bad design on good flags and that type of stuff. And some of the things we'll talk about is some really great design, which it's just so happened to line up when I was listening to it, which is why I think it stuck. Is I was visiting my friend Laura in Chicago, and they're like, Chicago's flag is great. And if you look at Chicago's flag, it really is great. It's a nice looking flag. I always said I wouldn't mind moving to Chicago, not because of the flag or anything like that, but it wouldn't hurt. It's kind of this big icon, and actually DC's is really similar. So if you want to kind of compare, contrast, and look at what some good versions of design are, that's it.
Yeah.
There's some other flags which are a little bit convoluted, unfortunately, Virginia's not a great flag. Pennsylvania's not a great flag. Anytime you have a seal, lots of little stuff. And I think kind of a good test that they say is when you were in elementary school and you had to draw your flag, was it Texas or was it Virginia?
Hey, I do not remember a single class in my childhood where they told us to draw the flag of Virginia. I mean, it might have had something to do with the half-naked woman on it, but still.
Well, we always got to draw the flag of Texas everywhere because we're Texas and we're proud. We got to learn how to draw Texas. It's super. I mean, bluebells, yellow rose of Texas. I mean, I know a lot of random just stuff about Texas at this point from living there for the first 14 years of my life. So.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
But anyway, so you want to have something that's simple, recognizable, not things that are kind of hard to draw, like naked ladies or bears or stuff like that. And that just means that you have kind of more brand recognition, it's a little bit more visceral. And then there's certain things that are really common about flag design, there's only certain colors you can use, and there's all these rules and regulations, and it's just thinking about good design. So they also did one whole thing about Frank Lloyd Wright houses, which is when we moved up to Columbus, and I never figured out how to do it, but really close to where we lived in Worthington, if you're watching from Ohio, figure it out. You'll probably know. So in Worthington, Ohio, there was this whole cluster of Frank Lloyd Wright houses. course, they're really expensive now. They're over like $500,000. Worthington's a very snooty neighborhood, but a great, great grocery store called Fresh Time.
Yes.
And they had a big, huge steak sale like 4 times a year. I really miss Fresh Time. Fresh Time, please come to Central Virginia.
Yes, she has been. Fresh Time is the
I wrote
store.
them a letter.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie. I wrote them a letter when we moved here. And they're like, thanks for your feedback. We'll consider it. I'm like, you could just say no. That's fine. I just really wanted, like, fresh cherries and steak, okay? But anyway, so Worthington, there's this little area where they had all of these homes. It was Frank Lloyd Wright's attempt at building a working class home, but of course now they're all really expensive. And I always wanted to drive through that neighborhood. I found where it was on the map, but it's kind of weird. Like, you just don't go like driving through. Maybe we could have done it at Christmas. I don't know when the appropriate time to drive through some rich person's neighborhood is. There are not etiquette rules about these things aside from don't do it. But I would have loved to have really gone to go see those, because I feel like that's what I try to do a lot with since we moved in here. It's all like, where can I install a desk that's now part of the house? Where can I install a shelf that's now part of the house? Like, I just really love that whole concept that the house has everything you need. I don't have to buy additional furniture. It's just here, and you just move in, and you just, like, live in it. Mm-hmm. So I was like, that's kind of like my dream. If I could buy one of these like cute little houses, although I think there's only in like Ohio and Detroit, like they're not everywhere, of course. They're in working towns. But yeah, I love that concept of house. I'd really love to live in one day. If I ever make, $600,000 to spend on a house, that's going to be the type of house I move into, because I just really enjoy it. It's like all natural materials. They have a huge windows to let in light. Like, it's supposed to be this harmony between architecture and nature, which, as a hippie-dippy person, I like. So anyway, so that's my whole concept, is like, I feel like it has to be Roman Mars touting kind of like these 10 rules of design and architecture, and they kind of just like come up into like these songs of like always read the plaque and design a better stamp and stuff like that. And so that's why I was like, I don't know if it's necessarily anything that is story driven. That's why I kind of feel like How to Succeed. The steps of how to succeed in business. Mm-hmm. That kind of resonated with me for like the steps of how to have a great design or a great piece of architecture. I also kind of like Urinetown because I feel like, well, you maybe have a social justice component. Like, why should we keep the statue up or tear the statue down? That's pretty relevant right now. And then what the Constitution means to me was kind of just like tossed in. It's not a musical. It's a play. It's a great play. But basically, it was this young woman who wrote this play, and part of her truth, her story, was as a high schooler, she did debates about Bill of Rights and the Constitution and stuff like that, and that's how she paid for her college. She did these tours and had these debates, and it was like part of this competition. And so she kind of turned it into a stage show, and I think it actually won a Tony. It's really, everybody says it's really quite good. I haven't seen it, but I have read pieces of it, and it seems like it has to be engaging to be a one-person show to win a Tony and, be a piece of drama. Like, there's really not a musical. Yeah. But I felt like that kind of got tossed in at the end of my brain because Roman Mars also runs this other podcast I listen to. And that's called What Trump Can Teach Us About Con Law. Yes. Where he has his friend who is a lawyer, and she talks about, well, this is unprecedented, but it's not illegal, or you can't bring charges up on this. And so it's very frustrating. Yeah. Because I think you've already determined, like, which direction I'm leaning politically by this, but you get very kind of, like, maddened of everybody's doing everything wrong, but it's not illegal, so it's okay.
Well, I have often said that the thing that eventually got me to stop listening to What Trump Can Teach Us About Con Law was I got tired of every episode being, well, yes, no president has ever done this before, but it's not written in the Constitution that the president can't do that, only because nobody ever actually believed a president would want to do that. Yeah. So, yeah, it was this never-ending cycle of, like, So we built this country, and never once did we go, what if somebody who's like insanely corrupt winds up in the head office of the country? No, never happened.
But so I thought kind of like within that same vein of like, why do we keep monuments up? Why do we tear monuments down? You know, and kind of talking about like the legal aspects of that and maybe like the social political, like what is in, because a lot of things that they talk about good architecture and design is not just like, oh, it's aesthetically pleasing or it's nice, because there's a lot of evidence that we see where, well, it just needs to be functional, right? And a lot of the brutalist architecture you'll see in like DC, or I think they said Toronto, Montreal, where it's just like concrete. Yeah, it's functional, but it doesn't do much for the spirit. Or it's very aesthetically pleasing, but it's not functional. And so they talk about like it's not enough for somebody to come down on high and to say, I'm like a Lord Architect, and I'm building this thing, and all of you people have to capitulate to it. And they said that that's not really what good design and good architecture is. And in fact, I think one of the most recent ones I listened to before going on furlough was the one about Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're saying, like, Las Vegas is never anything that's, like, what people would say is beautiful or functional or anything like that, but it really works for what Las Vegas is, and it has its own sort of beauty, and they were having architecture students map it out. And so I kind of like that idea of that you could have a piece that explores rules and breaks them, or say, you know, here's the laws and the regulations, but, you know, power to the people.
Well, one of the things that I always loved about listening to 99% Invisible is from time to time they would come up with stories of things where someone took the redesign of their neighborhood basically into their own hands.
Yeah.
So it's like I can't get anybody to pay attention to the fact that cars are constantly going across this median here or anything like that. So I'm just going to go out and I'm going to set a Buddha statue in the middle of the median.
No,
so people
I remember
can't,
that one. It's people kept like doing drugs and trash and stuff.
And it was, but he set the Buddha out there basically just to put something in the space.
Yeah, so that people wouldn't do illicit things or pollute it.
Yeah, and then the next thing you know, it turns into this like pilgrimage site for all of the local Buddhist community, and it turns into like a park with the Buddha at the middle of it.
And crime dropped, and I mean it's like really amazing, and people like apparently bring him presents, and he's like no, like they said, oh, a divine power must have told you to do that. He's like, no.
He's like, no, I wanted to
He's
stop.
like, it's not my religion. I just wanted to have a clean neighborhood.
Yeah. And people were like, why did you put a Buddha out there then? And he's like, they had it at the garden shop.
Well, yeah, he was like, it seemed like the most neutral thing that most people would accept.
Yeah.
Because he's like, well, if I put a cross, that would inflame some people. If I put, you know, Star of David, if I put, you know, a monument to a guy. But he's like, but Buddha seemed pretty like, oh, everybody likes Buddha. Yeah.
So, and I love stories like that. Yeah. I love when they examine, like you said, the cross between social justice and architecture and design, with things like they did an episode recently about palm trees in California. Yeah. And how it's like palm trees became this great big status symbol and everything out there. But you know what palm trees don't do? They don't provide shade. And if you have no trees that provide shade, you basically have no place to shelter people who are out there on the street with no building to go into.
I would also say kind of in that same vein, like you said, your favorite thing is people coming up with like great ideas. Talking about LA, there was that one, do you remember the guy who was the artist where he studied all of the traffic designs and he had this off-ramp that just kept messing him up, so he decided to build his own off-ramp sign?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay, this is great.
I'll have to find that one.
So it was like guerrilla architecture, right? And so this guy's like, yeah, I moved to Los Angeles, and I always had to take a downtown exit, but by the time you noticed it, or by the time like Google told you about it, you would miss it, and then you have to loop all the way around because nothing's easy to get to in Los Angeles. So he literally just started researching what type of vans do the traffic people buy, you know, how much time do I have? He would study traffic patterns. He bought like traffic books so he could make the exact sign, and he kind of like did this art piece of making his own traffic installing it on a time that wasn't busy, and nobody really figured it out. I think they said for something like 5 to 10 years. Like, it was a long time. And he said, like, I knew it was dangerous. Like, I could have dropped my drill. I could, he's like, I could have hurt people, and I wasn't really accountable. But they eventually figured out the mistake and they took it down. And he said, well, can I have it back because it's historical? And they said no. They wouldn't give it back to him. But then the round about the whole end of the story is they actually took his suggestion and made it legal. So they actually really did it on their own, which was kind of the funny thing. But it was somebody who really just wanted to make their own life easy, make other people's life easy, and try to do it in the most illegal way possible.
So now, if I can take a crack at distilling your idea down, what it sounds like to me, because you mentioned all these influences on it and everything.
Well, I have one more thing that I'd like to include.
Go for it.
Are you sure you remember?
Yeah.
Okay. So the other really favorite thing I like about 99% Invisible is so they also do stuff like, okay, 2 things I like. Right. I have 2 things. They also
three things.
No, I promise 2. One is like memory palaces. So they'll talk about like how to construct like architecture in your mind, which is like a memory palace is a good way for you to memorize stuff. So they'll kind of just, it's basically, I think I like it so much because it's like the psychology of people, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's like, architecture and design can be basically said, it's like the human brain kind of like personified. But the one last thing that I did want to add before I like thought of my mind palace was the coin check. Have you heard of coin check?
No.
Okay, so one of Roman Mars' favorite thing to talk about is in certain branches of the government or the military, they have coins made, like big,
challenge
huge
coins.
Challenge coins. And so they made one for 99% Invisible, and they've had Kickstarters where it's like, if you donate to the Kickstarter. I've never had enough money to donate to Kickstarter. I used to, like, way back when I had, like, my engineering job. Like, that was, like, the most money I've ever made. And I was like, give it away. That was silly. I could have used it now. But this was, like, 8 years ago, so I can't blame myself too much. It was a better time then. Yeah. Anyway, so that was part of their Kickstarter campaign, is that they made challenge coins. And one of the things about the challenge coins is really something like they play drinking games with it, or they do, it's kind of like a social structure for federal employees. And the president is supposed to have one, and he really does not like Donald Trump. He really hates it.
Yeah, I've seen
He talks about it a lot.
I've seen pictures of Trump's challenge coin. I'm right there with him,
Yeah, he's just like, even if I was somebody who liked him, he's like, I don't think I could have gotten around how bad this design is. It just makes him sick.
Oh. But okay, so you've got the challenge coins in a... What I'm sort of picturing in my head, as the way you've talked about it, is take Anna Devere Smith, who does plays, for those of you watching who may not be familiar with her work, she's done plays like Fires in the Mirror and things like that.
Which is on PBS right now, because we are living in unprecedented times, and maybe everybody wants to rewatch that.
Yes, if you have the opportunity, and you have the opportunity because it's on PBS, watch Fires in the Mirror. It's an excellent show, but what Anna Devere Smith does is she interviews people surrounding specific social themes or specific events, like current events. And she'll interview them, and then she will go on stage and she will portray the people that she has interviewed in a one-woman show. And she does it without fictionalizing. So when you hear someone say something in her show, it's because they literally said that thing to her. She even works hard to get like the pauses in the right place in the speech, or the places where
I really love her so much. Like,
yeah.
When I saw that, I was like, I want to do that. Like, I've had 2 really like catalytic moments for why I picked theater, and one was Pirates of Penzance, and I think the other one was Fires in the Mirror.
So if you'll excuse me for making this mashup then and putting this mashup into people's heads, what I'm hearing is that 99% Invisible, the musical, would be Anna Devere Smith plus Schoolhouse Rock.
Well, see, I didn't even take it in that way at all. Like, I mean, I really like that idea. But I was really thinking of like a fictionalized kind of Roman Mars type of thing, and going very How to Succeed. Like here is how you can succeed as a designer, as an artist, as an architect, and then having these kind of like warring factions of like like literally how J. Pierpont Finch has to like climb the ladder and do it. Like I literally was just like, oh, it's just going to be like a nice kind of fictionalized story that actually has real pieces of architectural recommendations and architectural structures, because then you could have stuff like the challenge coin, then you could have stuff like always read the plaque, and by doing all that, J. Pierpont wins, But I mean, I think like that's what's so nice about this idea and exploring these podcasts, because especially something like 99% Invisible, which has been around for a very, very long time. I think they have like 500 episodes. I mean, something huge. They basically invented podcasting before podcasting was a thing. And then not only did they do podcasting, they said, hey, we're going to form like this commune, this collective of podcasters so that we can all make money and support each other.
Radiotopia,
Radiotopia, right? PRX. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
So I feel like they did a lot. And he kind of talks about Roman Mars, that his wife was pregnant with twins, and he knew he had to make money. So he just basically like tried to figure it out, and did it by things that he was passionate about. So that's what I think is so neat about the idea of going to a podcast to derive interpretation. Because if I do my version, which is like a little bit more traditional Broadway, just kind of a little bit fictionalized, but have some real elements of like, parables put in the podcast, then you could still do yours, and I think that you could still have a lot of very different things. But no, I was not thinking about that at all.
Okay.
Period.
Well, and here's the thing. I would love to see your version of it. I would love to see the fictionalized story with all these moments in it. I'd love to write my version of it. So Roman Mars, if anybody passes this video on to you, we both like to work on our own shows of this.
And you can tweet us right here.
Yes.
And you can say what you think. I mean, I would be really honored.
All right. Well, I think that's a pretty solid concept for a show. Lots of things you need to flesh out there, like what exactly is he rising to the top of, and things like
Being
that.
a great architect.
Okay.
Very Mad Men, right? Just be Don Draper.
Yes.
Be John Hamm.
All right, and but nevertheless, really solid footing. I think you've got a really good foundation there for where you begin. And I know Jenny has mentioned before to us in the chat when I was talking about not being able to write a show because of the rights issues and things like that. You mentioned before, Jenny, fan fiction. Maybe what we need to do is produce our fan fiction scripts of 99% Invisible the Musical.
Well, and that's kind of the nice thing. It's like it's a bit of a nebulous script. Like as what Trump can teach us about con law, it is a bit nebulous. Like you can't always say inspired by 99% Invisible, and it's not really fan fiction.
Yeah,
it's a fiction.
Yes.
It's a real thing.
All right, so let's see. Any further ideas pop to mind while we were talking that you're like?
No, I mean, like, honestly, like, I feel that as somebody who really likes design and theater, like, I just, like, foresee, showgirls and Chrysler Building headdresses, and, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of very stunning visuals you can get from a design podcast.
I feel like this would be a show where the designers would go absolutely nuts, to the point that you might want to actually include a number about theatrical design, which I'm pretty sure they've done plenty of that on 99.
That would probably be pretty fun, that you could do like a noises off type of thing,
yeah,
where the set rotates and you can see not only the glorious thing that makes the set, but then see all the people working on the levers. And that would be perfect for 99% Invisible.
Oh man, I just had the vision when you said that. You were talking about the showgirls, the chorus girls with the Chrysler Building headdresses and
with the mirror,
and I was like,
mirror.
oh man, it would be so great to have the big musical number at the end of Act 1 with the Chrysler Building headdresses and everything, and then Act 2, the curtain opens, and you're on the back side of the set, watching everything that happens on the back side of the set to make that big musical number happen.
Yes, I think
I
that'd be
could
great.
see that, yeah.
And, like, what I also think is so hard about picking 99% is visible is I know, like, I keep a little journal on my phone of I hear something and it just sounds amazing and I want to, like, do that as a show. So it's like, I'm pretty sure 99% Invisible is, like, where I heard things about, like, Miss Manhattan and maybe even, if it's not 99% Invisible, it's definitely another Radiotopia, like The Heart of the Sea.
Mm-hmm.
And, oh gosh, what's another one? But The Seeds of Leningrad.
Yeah.
There are some really phenomenal, like, human stories, and this is why I think it's such a great podcast. Like, if you're not listening to 99% Invisible and you have no interest in architecture or design, still listen to it, because they talk about, like, everything. And like I said, if it's not 99% Invisible I'm thinking of, like, I'm relating a lot to it because that's the one I listen to the most, but it could have been another Radiotopia PRX. Check out everything from Radiotopia. I think, like, if I could just do a little bit of a plug for something I'm not getting paid for, but I think you'd like, is I like things like The Truth and Unfictional and The Heart and Criminal.
Yeah.
Like, there's a whole bunch of just really great storytellers, and I think that that's what makes podcasts something we both got really excited about translating musical theater, because it's kind of like the last bastion of novel storytelling, journalistic type of content. Like, you kind of get it here and there from some documentaries, from some authors. I think a bit like, Hamilton is kind of, I feel, a bit of like a tangential type of podcast translation, even though, like, it's not, but it kind of is. So it's one of these things that I think that when you get people who know how to tell stories and to inspire your imagination so much that you'll dedicate, a half an hour to an hour and a half to listening to something, I think that just really shows, like, well, gosh, if I can have it in this, like, one sensory input, why can't I have it for all of them? Like, I'd love to see this fleshed out in a musical.
Yeah. All right. Well, great idea for a show. And yes, let's see, we've got woohoo from Bristol at Lola's cameo.
Yes.
Yes, that's how excited we were talking about podcasting and musicals and everything like that, is that Lola had such a long cameo today, all over our backdrop.
Yep.
She's currently sitting on top of the pillows over there looking at us. And at no point did we actually, like, stop the action to be like, look, cat.
Well, she's also, to be fair, so we had to move some stuff in here, which is hence the different setup, because we're finally setting up a place to eat dinner. We haven't had a dining room table in years. So she has been very hype about climbing on dining room table, climbing on the couch. We finally got a couch and end table set up. So we've been slowly removing all of her hiding spaces and boxes from the move. And I feel that she just needs to let herself be known in the world and just remind us that she is here and she lives here and we should stop ruining her stuff.
All right, let's see. Jenny listens to a lot of podcasts. I listen to way too many podcasts myself. And loves your idea. So there we go.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Yes.
We love you so much. I'll be honest, I was like feeling a little bit out of the woods. I was sad for several weeks, but I think we're finally like getting on the other side of it. And I think that this podcast has really been a big help to me, so we hope that it is a big help to you.
Yes.
If you have any ideas, if you want to have any comments, we have our Twitter handles right here. If you do want to support our 2 weeks in solitary confinement, duotary confinement, so that we're not infecting the world, we would appreciate any help. But if you are struggling like us, please take care of yourself first. We want to make sure that you're doing well as well. And we have a roof over our heads, and we have very fluffy kittens, and we're all doing fine. And our Target order should come tomorrow morning.
Yes. But yes, any support that you can offer is great. And of course, you have the shirt, and you have the Support the QuaranStream going on down there at the bottom. But also retweets, word of mouth.
Yeah, now they have quite a fair few to watch. So if somebody is like, look, I'm now in month 4 of the quarantine. I haven't gone out. I have no intention to go out until, I know there's a vaccine. There's probably, like, what? 40 of these to watch now? I don't know. A lot. We got a lot.
Yes, we got a lot of them. So they're all up on the Film Optimist YouTube channel, and in their own playlist, so you can watch the Musical
And
QuaranStream of
hopefully
2020.
new Film Optimist.
Yes, new Film Optimist is coming soon. I have the script written, and I've got my $4 teleprompter built, so I don't really have any excuses anymore, I guess.
Aside from just making sure we have a good internet connection, making sure the rain doesn't wash us out and we lose connection with you guys, we're going to keep producing content, and we hope that you find it enjoyable, and
Yes.
we love you.
We love you very much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us live or joining us on YouTube, whatever it is. If you loved us, tell your friends. If you hated us, tell your enemies. And have a great night. And until next time, which next time is Saturday at 2 p.m.
And he will be better about promoting it.
Yes.
This is, I'm doing some self-improvement.
I'm working on my self-improvement. Yes.
But we are getting the videos up, which is a big step.
And so next time, Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we will be here on Twitch TV, and we're going to love seeing you guys if you can make it.
Well, what's on Saturday? I was like, it's so scary.
Yes. And so...
You didn't tell them the name.
Hmm?
What is the name
of
what are we doing on Saturday?
What am I doing on Saturday? Yes, I'm working on it. I am going to be finishing up our string of podcast musicals, and I am going to be doing lore.
Yes, and if you don't want to listen to the podcast, they also have a TV show on Amazon Prime.
There were 2 seasons of it on Amazon Prime. You can look it up. Pretty good TV show, too. So
very spooky, scary.
Yes, and I have some great ideas. I can't wait to share them with you on Saturday. So Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll be here. Of course, it'll be up on YouTube afterward. All right, and so we love you guys. Thank you once again. And until next time, take care of yourselves out there, because, we're not there to take care of you. Bye. All right, and fade out. Fade out.